Allow me to talk about Jeffrey Thompson for a second, because Mr. Orange, you were quoted in today's edition of the Washington Post as saying that you approached Jeffrey Thompson when you felt you needed his help in your campaign. What was the nature of your relationship with Jeffrey Thompson?
Oh, well, as you know, Jeffrey Thompson is a graduate of University of District of Columbia. He set up a accounting firm, and that became the #1 minority accounting firm in the nation, public accounting firm. And I'm a CPA, and I belong to the Greater Washington Society of CPAs. I know him through that professional association. I know him through his work with the National Council of Negro Women, helping Dr. Haidt have the first African-American building on Pennsylvania Avenue. He received the award in 2010 from the D.C. Democratic State Committee. I was the one that presented the award. So, you know, and Mr. Thompson at that time was held in high esteem. And let me say this, Mr. Thompson has provided contributions to President Obama, Hillary Clinton, Governor O'Malley, Governor Rendell, much more.
But those contributions are not the ones that are under question at this point. And I guess because you're a CPA, people expected you to scrutinize the contributions that you got a lot more carefully than you did. You often refer to the fact that you are a CPA when you ask for people's votes. Why did you not scrutinize those contributions more carefully?
Well, that's absolutely correct, because as you know, in the structure of the campaigns, you have a finance chair, you have a treasurer. The contributions came in on March 10th. We got them around 9 o'clock. The report was due at midnight. So we made the report, met that deadline. 2 weeks later, we received communications from the Office of Campaign Finance for a desk audit. They asked for documentation for 77 transactions, a lot of those related to the transaction, those money orders. They went through it, gave us a clean bill of health. When the election was over, we got another communication from the Office of Campaign Finance for examination. See, when the money orders came in, they came in with a donor card, had the person's name, address, had their occupation, everything that's required by law. Even when the Washington Post tried to call up some of the people that had the donor cards, a couple people they were able to contact say, yes, I know Vincent Orange. I gave him a fundraiser before. I made the contribution. So there's no evidence that I was a part of any
Can we cut to the chase on this before we leave him on
Sure.
this? I want to just make it clear, since we were asking about ethics issues in this cloud. You've said, I want you to say it again if it's true here, that you don't believe, you say you are not under with all these investigations going on, your records have not been subpoenaed. You haven't been before the prosecutors or the grand jury. Where do you stand in this swirl of investigations? As I understand, you're saying you are not in any way under investigation that you're aware of.
That is absolutely correct. I am not under investigation. None of my records have been subpoenaed. And once again, if you go back to the timeline, you can see why. I had no involvement whatsoever as it relates to any shadow campaign or anything of that nature. And receiving contributions, we recorded them properly. Like I said, we've gone through the 6th audit, and there's just no evidence other than the media keeps stirring it up.
Ann Wilcox, the U.S. Attorney's investigation of the 2010 mayoral election seems to have called into question whether the district system for electing local political candidates is fundamentally broken. What do you think is necessary to restore the integrity of how the city elects local officials?
Well, thank you. I mean, we have been discussing this on our forums out on the campaign trail, and I've been calling for stronger audits. The Office of Campaign Finance, it's my understanding they're actually adding some staff so they can beef up their resources in this area. I mean, I think it's a shame when it has to go to the U.S. Attorney's Office, but we need to locate these problems while they're still small problems. The ethics legislation that was passed by Muriel Bowser, promoted by her, is a start, but we need to have stronger rules which prevent conflict of interest once council members are on.
Do you support efforts to limit corporate contributions to D.C. County?
We have, as the Statehood Green Party, we have supported Initiative 70. The National Green Party, of course, doesn't take corporate contributions. I'm not sure we'll ever get to that point, but we certainly need to strengthen our ethics.
Should the council be a full-time job?
I think that we need to attract the best council members. If they do have an outside job, again, there should be strong, the Chinese wall, so to speak, between your work that you do outside and the legislation you're promoting on the council.
Allow me to go to the telephones. Please don your headphones, because Dina in Northwest Washington has been waiting for a while. Dina, you're on the air. Go ahead, please.
Hi, Kojo. Thanks for taking my call. And I'm glad to get in on the conversation a little bit after you're talking about the city budgeting issues, because this is somewhat related. I live in Northwest. I'm a parent of 3 DCPS elementary school students, and they go to Hearst Elementary School in Northwest DC. And it's a really small school and is in desperate need of renovation and modernization, and we've been on the list to be renovated and modernized. And this was supposed to be our year. And, the parent community was really kind of shocked and surprised when, even after DCPS presented designs for what the new school is, what the school's going to look like after the renovation and modernization, we came to learn that there are actually not sufficient funds to do the work. And
your question?
My question is what's the general stance of the people that you have there on funding this stuff? And considering that there are so many overages in the city budget, would this be something that they would support? Let me
direct the question to A.J. Cooper because he's attended both private and public schools in the District of Columbia.
Yes. I think that more than anything, a city's budget is a document that says where their morals are. And when our city budget isn't focusing on making sure that every child has the best chance possible at success, we need to change who is directing that budget. I'm all for school modernization. I'm all for making sure we have librarians and libraries in every one of our schools. D.C. is the capital of the United States of America. We should have the best schools on the planet. Instead, we're the example of what not to do when it comes to educating children. And so on the council, I'll make sure that our schools are world-class learning environments, not just good enough.
Because more than half the show is over, I'm going to ask you for the rest of the show to keep your responses limited to about 45 seconds.
I have, as a reporter, I have covered, the school budget's gone up, operating budget's over more than 40% since 2003 or 4. The city spent more than $1 billion. Yep. I have been to the renovated elementary, junior high, and high schools. There are still some schools, but not many schools that need the kind of restoration that the Hearst wants.
Right.
But you sounded like the city has done nothing. The city has done an extraordinary amount of rebuilding of the school system.
Well, I'll tell you what.
Enrollment's up.
Right.
Charter
enrollment's
schools
up. All of that's up. When I walk my dog, I carry the little bags to pick up the crap. You can have the most beautiful bag in the world, but you're still, picking up crap. You can put a beautiful football field and a new facade on a school, but when we're not actually dealing with the essential
you're
issues
talking about the education, the programs inside the schools.
Programs,
okay, I got it.
The curriculum. And also, when we're spending all this money for administration and teachers are having to come out of their own pockets to buy stuff for our students, then there's a lack of leadership and vision. And that more than money is what's important.
One thing in the schools also, and we had a good education forum last night that was sponsored by DC Voice and some other groups, and what seems to be lacking right now under the mayoral control is a real conduit for the parents and students to get their views out. They used to go to the board members, that was their local person to talk to, but now the council doesn't have a dedicated education committee. It's like if everyone's in charge, no one's really in charge at the council level. So we were talking about ways to either expand the powers of the State Board of Education or to have other ways for parents.
Phil Mendelson, who's going to be the chairman, has talked about an education committee. Quickly, Mr. Swain, do you think there should be an education committee other than all 13?
There should be an education committee, but also what they need to do is to stop separating public schools and charter schools. Go
Okay, that's a pretty complicated subject. AJ, education committee, yes?
Yes, and it should be a conduit for parental involvement in the system.
Well, Mr. Orange, the council gave up schools because to help the mayor get control of them. Should there be an education committee?
Absolutely. When I was running for chairman of the council, that was one of my positions, that we should reinstitute the education committee. But to answer the caller's question directly, it's Hearst Elementary School. I certainly agree with the caller that we should be making an investment in the school, and the school really should be renovated properly and making sure that it has resources. If you know, I've led the first relentless effort to reopen McKinley Tech as McKinley Technology High School, an $85 million investment, and now that school will receive the School Excellence Award from President Obama. When our children were on Fox Morning News complaining about not having books for their core subjects in the month of May and school was out in June, it was my legislation that now mandates that our children receive books, instructional materials by the second week of school, and the chancellor is to examine the school inventory of books, instructional materials every 5 years to make sure they meet national standards. This year, the council passed my early childhood education bill, which mandates that the chancellor trains our 3- and 4-year-olds for kindergarten and that they have a curriculum in place that ensures that our third graders upon entering the fourth grade can read independently and can add, subtract, multiply, and divide. So we are doing a lot as it relates to education, but there's more to be done. And it's great that Nathan Saunders, president of the Washington Teachers Union, and Kyra Henderson, the chancellor, are communicating better than George Parker and Michelle Rhee.
Teddy in Washington, D.C. has a question, I think, for you, Mr. Swain. But Teddy, you're on the air. Go ahead, please.
Thank you, Kojo, taking my call. The question I have is I salute Mr. Swain for standing for corruption while he was on Taxi Cab Commission. But by saying that, actually, he's very much hated by all cab drivers because what he believes. And he's really against all cab drivers. Now he's running for...
Why, Teddy, is he hated by all cab drivers?
Because he never stood for a cab drivers. While he was on chairman, we're not even getting any raise or any adjustment. He was just treating all cab drivers.
Okay, so what is your question for Mr. Swain now?
How he embarrassed by others is not even needing one taxi cab commission while he was a commissioner.
Could you repeat the question, please?
Well, how he's running for a bigger office, he's not even function one department. He's never standing for people who don't even have a voice. And the other
you have never stood up for taxi cab drivers, so why wouldn't you now be running for higher office, is what our caller seems to be suggesting.
Not only did I stand up for the taxi cab drivers by exposing the fraud and corruption, I've also been received contributions from taxi cab companies that are backing my campaign. Yellow Cab Company, USA Cab Company, and other cab companies have given me money to back my campaign. The thing about it is that what a lot of people are upset about is because I wouldn't sell out to a lot of the cab drivers.
Are you a supporter of the Uber service? Do you think we should have the Uber service here in the district? You are against the Uber service?
I'm against the way that Uber service operates, and I'm against what Uber service does to the taxi industry.
What do you say about that, Mr. Orange?
Well, once again, I'm working with Councilman Mary Che and looking at the whole Uber experience in the District of Columbia. At the forum at Catholic University, I actually ran into a resident in D.C. who is starting a Uber operation, and he's based in D.C. The Uber operation right now is based out of San Francisco, California, and I don't think that they should operate to the detriment of our taxi system.
What is your feeling about the poll that was conducted by the City Paper and our show that indicates that in every single ward in the city, a majority of the voters in that ward support the Uber service?
59% overall.
Yeah, and that's the reason why Councilmember Che, who has jurisdiction on this matter, is working with our colleagues to come up with a viable solution where both can operate in the city. I mean, obviously, we see the poll. 59% of people want it. You're going to make sure. We're here to represent the people, but we also have to protect the taxi cab industry as well. But so I think both can coexist in the District of Columbia.
Tom?
Well, I have an Uber account, and I've used it only twice, but it's pretty good. You just, when you want to, I've had trouble. I live in Southwest trying to get a cab. You call, and they always say, well, it might be an hour, it might be this, might be that. And they'd say, go out on the street and hail one. And you would get one faster. It's not good when it's raining. Under the Uber system, I have to say, I've called it twice. You go on your phone, and it says you have a car that would be there, and it's just 7 miles away, and it's there in a heartbeat. Right. And the price is a few dollars more at most than a cab that you can't get.
And the person that I talked to that lives in the district, if he sets up a Uber service, that'll be great. He'll be subject to DC taxation, and we'll be able to move forward. The other operations out of San Francisco, they're subject to California taxation, not DC taxation.
Hey, Jay Cooper, how do you feel about this?
If we start holding businesses to those only located in Washington, we are in deep trouble.